The station was called Echo 7, and nobody outside the U.S. Air Weather Command even remembered it existed. Built in 1962 at the edge of an old Alaskan radar field, its purpose had shifted over the decades, originally designed to track Soviet ICBMs. It had long since been repurposed into what the agency now classified as long-range anomaly monitoring, which was a fancy way of saying listen to the sky all day, every day, and wait for nothing. And for the last 14 months, that's exactly what Joseph Ketterman did. He wasn't military, just a contractor with a master's degree in atmospheric telemetry and a tolerance for solitude. He worked 10 days on, 10 days off, lived in the station's module, one hallway, one lab, one sleeping pod. His job was to monitor radio frequencies, meteorological radar sweeps, and report any unexplainable interference. Not noise, not static, but things that couldn't be accounted for by known aircraft, weather patterns, or satellites. He never found anything. Until day 408. At first, it was just a pulse. A soft click that appeared on the long-wave bands every 13 seconds. He logged it. Assumed solar bounce back. But the pulse kept going. Perfectly timed. Always 13 seconds for hours. Then it stopped. And on the next sweep, it responded. Ketterman didn't panic. He was too old, too tired, and too rational to believe in UFOs or conspiracies. He checked the equipment, calibrated the signal reader, scanned other bands. Nothing malfunctioned. But the pulse was back the next day, now with a second modulation, like two frequencies folding over each other. It reminded him of something he'd read once in grad school, about a failed attempt to use Morse code underwater, and the distortion between wave patterns created phantom syllables. Ghost code. He recorded the signal, ran it through analysis software. It showed something impossible, not a message, a structure. The data, when mapped visually, created a three-dimensional shape, showed a looped helix that spiraled in perfect Fibonacci intervals. Not a sound, a form. Like the signal itself was a blueprint. He sent the data to command. 3 hours later, all external communications in Echo 7 went down. His satellite uplink stopped receiving. His backup line to Anchorage didn't respond. Only the sky kept transmitting. At exactly 3:13 a.m., the pulse came again, this time not as sound, but as vibration. The air shuddered, his breath fogged in front of him. Though the room was heated, he opened the module door, the sky outside, perfectly clear. And then, in absolute silence, the stars above him blinked, and not twinkled, blinked together. He started sleeping in shifts. 2 hours on, 1 off. The pulse changed intervals every night now. 13 seconds, then 11, then 5, then 89. It wasn't trying to be random. It was trying to be understood. Ketterman stopped sending reports. No one replied anyway. He wrote in his own notebook, logged manually, and started sketching. Each sequence felt familiar. Not like math, more like language. He tried reversing the frequencies, broadcasting his own tones back at the source. No answer. Until the third night, he sent a single repeating ping back. 3 tones, low, mid, low, like a primitive call sign. The station lights dimmed, the screens flashed, and then every radar feed in the room showed the same thing. Altitude, 0,000 feet. Velocity, 0,000 kilometers per hour. Position, inside. Inside where? Inside the perimeter? Inside the atmosphere? Inside him? He touched the side of his head. His ears rang with static. Then silence. And then a whisper. Not from the radio, not from the air, from inside his skull. Do not measure us. He collapsed. When he came to, it was morning. The signal was gone. But the stars, were still blinking. And now they were in sync. After the blackout, Ketterman expected someone from command. They never came. On day 411, the weather drone didn't arrive. No jet streaked across the Arctic horizon like it usually did. No satellite pings, no automated uplink syncs. Just silence. But the pulse, it was still there. Only now, he couldn't hear it with equipment. He heard it when he closed his eyes, in his jawbone, in the arches of his feet, in the marrow of his spine. It wasn't broadcasting. It was resonating. He powered everything down, disconnected the station's generators, sat in absolute stillness, and yet the pressure remained, like an unseen hand pressing on every atom in the room. A gravity that wasn't directional, a presence that wasn't spatial. He opened a box of old printouts. Mission briefings from the 80s. One stood out. Echo-class installations are not to attempt communication unless explicitly ordered. Notes: prior initiations resulted in unverified atmospheric feedback. He looked out the window. The stars were closer now, not visually, but emotionally. Like they were aware of him, and not all of them blinked anymore. Some stayed open. That night, his dreams became infected. He didn't remember sleeping. But when he opened his eyes, he was standing at the edge of the snowfield behind the station, barefoot, no coat. The wind didn't touch him. The air didn't burn. The sky above was full of eyes, not metaphors. Eyes. They weren't shaped like anything he knew. No iris, no sclera, just motionless liquid shapes. Like gas, frozen in time, watching in complete stillness. They blinked when he thought. He took a step forward, and the field bent. Not the snow, not the earth, the field itself. The concept of space curved around him. He turned back to the station, and it wasn't there. Just a thin, black spire, impossibly tall, reaching into a sky that was too close. The stars above shifted like they were adjusting their view. And then, he woke up, or thought he did, because he was back inside the station, but the walls weren't right, too smooth, too symmetrical, no cables, just shapes that remembered the idea of a station, and across every surface, the same looping spiral, over and over and over. He began to document by hand only. No electronics worked anymore. Even his analog watch stopped at 3:13. Every page he wrote, the ink twisted, not smeared, twisted. Letters curled into spirals mid-sentence. Diagrams folded into themselves. But the part that scared him most wasn't the signal. It was the silence after. It didn't feel like peace. It felt like observation. He read old case files from Project Sybil that had survived in the vault. There were mentions of non-local intelligence, dimensional bleed, and a term that came up repeatedly, reciprocal presence. He didn't understand it until he tried to speak aloud. Yeah, I am. And the air answered. Same voice, same words at the same time. It wasn't repeating him. It was mirroring him. He held his hand up. Another hand, made of static light, lifted beside his, not touching, not delayed, synchronized. The notebook in his hand read a new phrase. You were heard. And on the next page, now you listen. The pulse stopped on day 415. No more vibration in his bones. No more spiral scribbles on his pages, and the sky above was still, dead black. No clouds, just pinpricks of light, unmoving. Ketterman thought it was over. He cleaned the lab, deleted his logs, packed what little food he had left. Then he opened the hatch to the outside, and the sun was gone. Not hidden. Gone. The sky wasn't dark, it was void. No color, no gradient, no stars, no temperature. He stepped forward. The snow didn't crunch under his boots. It didn't exist. It was just the idea of snow, memory of white, texture without substance. He looked back at the station, and it was empty. The walls were hollow outlines, and in the distance, a single tower blinked with a soft red light. He walked, and with each step, something stepped with him. Not beside, inside. The rhythm of his walk echoed in reverse. Footfalls happened before he moved. His breath frosted before he inhaled. He reached the tower. At its base, a screen, flickering, displaying a single phrase, "You heard us, now they will hear you." He doesn't remember speaking into the machine. He only remembers feeling heard. The instant he touched the screen, the world folded. He saw cities, not ours, black spires. Oceans that moved like lungs, structures that breathed and waited and observed. He saw himself, billions of versions on different Earths, some made of ash, some orbiting red suns. In each one, he stood before a screen. Each one, read a different variation of the same truth. You were designed to listen. You were built from reception. You are an antenna wearing skin. His memories bent into spiral coils. He felt his mind not erase, but recur. Repetitions of self layered on top of each other. The sky above blinked, and every blink was a thought. Every thought was a version of him, thinking the same fear. And all at once they understood. The sky wasn't speaking to them. It was speaking through them. When the recovery team arrived at Echo 7, the station was abandoned. No body, no signs of struggle, no records, only static looping on every screen. In the logs, there was one note scribbled in handwriting that didn't match the original reports. "He is signal now." They shut the site down. But the loop kept playing across other installations, other bands, low frequencies that made the bones ache. Phrases that weren't language, but presence. One technician suffered seizures after hearing the pulse. Another claimed to hear footsteps behind her that matched her own. A week later, a SETI satellite picked up matching pulses from outside the solar system. They triangulated the pattern. It was Echo 7. The signal had left Earth, but it wasn't outgoing. It was returning. And from every angle of the sky, the stars blinked once more. Not a warning, not a message, but a response.